Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Good. Be seated, please. Parameshvara. Good. Okay. So, you having some problem here? Can I help you?
It's not penning to you. It's supposed to go to wide, it's not penning to you. Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. We have a new system here. It's a little complicated. Then you want to press close up? Yep. There you go. Thank you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karavavhai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, good. Are we recording properly? It says it's recording? Okay, good. Thank you. Good. Nice to have you here. As I mentioned before, we finished our study of the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita in a prior class. But as I mentioned, we were going to take up the Gita Dhyanam, the meditation verses on the Bhagavad Gita, which we'll begin today. Before we begin, I just want to mention that it's been delightful to get so many nice comments, especially from the many students who attend these classes online. There are maybe 100 people here this morning in the lecture hall, but online there are several thousands of students who appear to be watching fairly regularly. I'm delighted by that, absolutely. And I've received so many nice comments, many of them have watched all the classes for 2.5 years, as many of you have. And it's been a wonderful study for me as well. And I'm glad, nice to see those comments. So today we begin, and you can put up the PowerPoint slide now, the Gita Dhyanam. Dhyana means meditation or meditation verses. This Dhyana verses, Dhyana shlokas, meditation verses, are often recited before, not just before a meditation, but before any ritual. It's common to recite these. And in fact, these are commonly recited before the study of the Bhagavad Gita, which is considered like a ritual to immerse yourself in the words of Sri Krishna. You can see how many people would consider that to be ritual worship of Sri Krishna. In fact, we have a word for it called Jnana Yajna, a yajna, ritual worship in the form of jnana, wisdom. These verses are also used as an invocation, which is also meaningful. You can now, I advance. Okay, so, anything else I need to introduce? No. The projector is not turned on? It looks like the projector might not be turned on. Yeah. The projector, I can turn it on here. Okay. So, let's see, that should turn it on. So we'll wait takes a projector a minute to get warmed up, but it's important that you should see. Okay, is it coming? I can't. It's coming. Takes a minute. By the way, just if you're interested in the technology, the reason it takes so long is the bulbs in these projectors cost hundreds of dollars. If you just turn them on, they go fut. So therefore, they turn them on really slowly. So your $500 projector bulb doesn't go fut. Okay, good. All right. And it'll come up a little more brightly yet. So let's begin with the first of these dhyana verses. There are 9 altogether. We'll see some of them today. The remainder we'll see tomorrow. These are traditionally recited before each class. We haven't been doing so here, by the way, and the reason for that is so that we could chant verses from the text where we're studying. To me, it seems more important to recite the actual text, but today we have a wonderful opportunity to recite these verses from Gita Dhyana. Good, now at full brightness, so you can repeat after me, please. Om. Let me get the pitch up a little bit. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata. Repeat. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam. Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina. Vyasena kratitam purana munina madhye mahabharatam advaitam. There we go. Advaitamritavarshinim bhagavatim. Advaitamritavarshinim bhagavatim ashtadashadhyayanim ambatvamanusandadhami ambatvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshani Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshani. And this verse covers 2 slides because it's in a longer meter. Would you check the light on me to make sure that it's only turned up halfway? You know, where the black spot should be pointed up. It might be not adjusted correctly. All right, it's just a little bright in my eyes. Yeah, thank you. Good. All right, so beautiful verses, very poetic. Let's see the meaning. The first verse is in praise of the Bhagavad Gita. The second verse, which we'll see in a few minutes, in praise of Vyasa, its author. And the third and succeeding verses are mostly in praise of Sri Krishna, not surprisingly. So this verse in worship of the Gita itself, the Gita which was pratibodhitam, it was taught. It was taught parthaya, to Partha, to Arjuna. So it was taught to Arjuna by whom? Bhagavata, by the Lord. By what aspect of the Lord? Narayanena, by Narayana, of course a name for Lord Vishnu. We understand Sri Krishna to be an avatara, a form of Lord Krishna. Narayanena swayam, by the Lord himself. So the Bhagavad Gita, one of the special features of the Bhagavad Gita is who is doing the teaching. In other scriptures, you have various rishis doing the teaching. In other scriptures, you have different acharyas, teachers, like Shankaracharya, who are doing the teaching. Here we have Narayana Swayam, the Lord himself is giving us instruction, Parthaya, to Arjuna. And this text, this Bhagavad Gita, is gratitam. It is composed. It is composed by whom? Vyasena, by Vyasa, the Rishi Vyasa, who is Purana Munina, an ancient Rishi, an ancient Muni, composed by the ancient Rishi Vyasa, and it is gratitam. It is composed literally. That's an interesting term. It literally means it is strung or knotted, madhye, in the middle, Mahabharatam, in the middle of the Mahabharata. Strung? Knotted? Remember, in ancient times, books were were largely in the form of these palm leaves which had holes on the sides, and they would put strings through the palm leaves to hold them together, to bind them together, which is why they are called grantha. Grantha means that which is bound together by string. So here, gratitam, it was bound, it was compiled by Vyasa, madhye, in the middle, Mahabharatam, in the middle of the Mahabharata. So in the middle of the Mahabharata, actually is almost literally correct. Mahabharata is 84,000 verses, and the 700 verse excerpt, which is our Bhagavad Gita, is almost exactly in the middle. So just kind of accidentally that it happens in the middle. Then, second part of this verse, Advaita Amrita Varshinim Bhagavatim. Bhagavatim, the sacred holy text. Bhagavatim, Bhagavad Gita, which is Advaita Amrita Varshinim. This text which is like rain, Varsha, Varshinim, which rains upon us, not water. You don't need. You're at home, you can take if you want to bathe in water, you do that at home. Here, you are bathed in not water, but amrita. The meaning, the simple meaning in this context is nectar. You are bathed in the nectar of Advaita, non-duality, the highest teachings of the ancient rishis. So this Bhagavad Gita showers us with the nectar of immortality. Many of you know that this word amrita has a more literal meaning, amrita, not dead. So then we can call it, this text showers us with the immortality, which is the result of gaining knowledge of your true non-dual nature, enlightenment. So that's the second meaning here. This amrita is both the nectar rained down upon us, showered down upon us. It's also the immortality bestowed upon us when you gain enlightenment using these teachings. And this text is Ashtadasha Adhyayanim. This text has adhyaya, has chapters. How many? Ashtadasha. Sanskrit is nice how it does that. Hindi also. So you have, actually Hindi has numerals, I think, up to 20s or something, 30s. Anyway, here in Sanskrit, Ashta, 8, and Dasha, 10. 8 plus 10 equals, you can figure it out. Okay. So these 18 chapters. I think the whole of the Mahabharata is approximately 2,000 chapters. I think you have to add them up. I did that long ago. I think roughly 2,000 chapters. So here we have an 18-chapter excerpt of the 2,000 chapters of the Mahabharata. Then, end of idea, now comes a prayerful invocation, where the author of this verse says, Amba, hey ma, O mother, Amba. O mother, What mother? Bhagavad Gita. Turns out that the word Gita is feminine in gender. So it's not unusual then to refer to this text as Mother Gita. And what's significant about mother is one who nourishes her child. Bhagavad Gita is one who nourishes us all. In that sense, Bhagavad Gita is mother. Amba Twam Anusandadhami. Anusandadhami, I contemplate on, I meditate on, I pray to Twam, you. O Mother, I pray to you, Bhagavad Gita, O Bhagavad Gita. So here the Bhagavad Gita is actually addressed. O Bhagavad Gita, addressing her as mother, and that Bhagavad Gita, which is Bhava Dveshanim. That Dveshanim is that which is opposed to what? Bhava is shorthand for samsara. Samsara means a life of suffering. So this Bhagavad Gita removes suffering in life, as any mother would do for her children, right? Mother is ready, consistently ready, always ready to do whatever she can to remove suffering from the life of her children. In the same way, the Bhagavad Gita gives it in that way. Mother is a source of, and just another take on this is mother is a source of comfort. You always feel at peace and comfortable in mother's presence. Usually. There are those days, I understand, but usually. So here we find comfort in the presence of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is our first verse of the Gita Dhyana, which is in praise of the Bhagavad Gita herself. I shouldn't say itself, the Bhagavad Gita herself. And the next verse is to the sage Vyasa. Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe. Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe. Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra. Pullara Vindaya Patra Netra. Get this? Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha. Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha. Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha. Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha. Very good. Again, longer meter, longer verse. Namaha astu te. Salutations unto you. When you say namaste, namaha te, salutations to you. Same thing here. Namaha astu is a verb. May there be blessings, salutations unto you. Vyasa, addressing Vyasa, the ancient sage from whom this teaching comes, the one who is Vishala Buddhe, Vyasa, whose buddhi, intellect, mind, is Vishala, wide, expansive. And here, let us just reflect on who was Vyasa. We find Vyasa in a second position on our Guru Parampara over on the altar. But we have discussed this, and we know very well that Vyasa was not a single historical person. There is a single historical Veda Vyasa, the one who compiled the Vedas into the 4 books that we have today. That Veda Vyasa is probably not the same as Vyasa who composed the Mahabharata. for several reasons. One is historical, they come at different times. The language of the Mahabharata determines, and I made this point before, please don't get confused. When I say the Mahabharata is 2,000 years old, I'm not saying that the battle took place 2,000 years ago. I have no idea when the battle took place. But I know from the language of the text that it was written approximately 2,000 years ago, based on linguistic evidence, not hard to ascertain. So the Vedas were compiled more than 2,000 years ago. So how do we reconcile that? This was a later Vyasa. Chances are Vyasa was a family, a tradition, a lineage. There was a lineage of Vyasas. So one of Veda Vyasa's successors in that lineage composed this Mahabharata. I say composed, even that is loosely speaking. Compiled is probably better. You've heard me say before that the word Vyasa literally means compiling. Vyasana is compilation. So to say that Vyasa is the author of the Mahabharata is a stretch because it's 84,000 verses long. And it's unlikely that any human being could write an 84,000 verse epic in one's lifetime. Also, it goes contrary to the Mahabharata itself and the storytelling tradition of ancient India. The storytelling tradition is that stories are passed on generation after generation. As those stories are passed on, they're embellished. And the Mahabharata was one of those stories that was passed on through generations, and it indeed was embellished. And the further evidence of that was, I forget if I mentioned this here or maybe in satsang, in the very first book of the Mahabharata, there's an account of 3 versions of the Mahabharata. A short version, then the longer version. The first version, I think, was called Jaya. The second version was called Bharata. And the third version is called Mahabharata. The first version, called Jaya, could have been quite small. Some scholars think it was as small as 8,000 verses. I'm not sure about that. Second version, Bharata, was obviously much longer. Final version, Mahabharata, is what we study today, these 84,000 verses. So this is more evidence for the fact that Vyasa is not a single person, but rather a lineage. That lineage is also responsible for the 18 Mahapuranas, these ancient texts. Cumulatively, I think there are 200,000 or 300,000 verses altogether in those 18 Mahapuranas. So more evidence of the lineage. Also, one last point here: some of those Puranas, the language dates them as late as maybe 1,000 years ago. Based, again, linguistic evidence. Based on the language of some of the Puranas, some of them might be only 1,000 years old. That's a little silly to say only 1,000 years old. Only in the Hindu tradition can you say, oh, this text is only 1,000 years old. That's quite an observation right there. Anyway, so 1,000 years ago, there was another descendant of Vyasa who was continuing to compile these scriptures. Okay, enough on Vyasa. Where am I? That Vyasa, who is Vishala Buddhe, O Vyasa, who's the one whose mind is vast, whose intelligence is vast. Another term of address, O Vyasa, the one who is Pulla, Aravinda, Ayata, Patra, Netra. These are compound words. You have to divide them up very properly, and often you get the meaning right to left. So here, Vyasa is said to be one whose netra, whose eyes are like Ayata Patra. Patra you may know as not leaf, but what is the word I'm looking at? Petal. Petal would be more accurate in this context. Ayata Patra, a wide open petals whose eyes are like the extended petals of an Aravinda, one of the many words for lotus, a lotus which is pulla, completely bloomed. So the one whose eyes are like these beautiful lotus petals, not the leaves, the petals of the lotus flower. Further, that Vyasa is Yena, the one by whom, Tvaya, by you. This is a prayer, and it's a prayer addressed directly to Vyasa. By you, Vyasa, who is the one, by you, who is the one who is Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalitaha Jnanamaya Pradipaha. Little wonderful poetic expression. So Vyasa is the one by whom this Jnanamayaha, this Bhagavad Gita, which is Jnanamayaha, which is full of wisdom. This Bhagavad Gita, which is full of wisdom, was pradipaha. It is lit. It is lit. How? Prajwalitaha. It is shining. Pradipa, it's like a light, like a lamp. This lamp of the Bhagavad Gita, which is in a form of knowledge, has been prajwalitaha, lit by Vyasa, lit after Bharata Taila Purnaha. This lamp, which is Purnaha, filled by Vyasa, filled with what? Taila, oil. But what kind of oil? Not vegetable oil. Bharata Taila. Bharata means Maha Bharata. Filled with the oil of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. So here's one of the most common metaphors you find in the Hindu tradition is knowledge compared to light, the light of a lamp. Just as light of a lamp removes darkness and reveals whatever is present, in the same way the light of knowledge removes the darkness of ignorance and reveals the truth of your true nature. So this is a metaphor to light. Light needs a source, a lamp. Here in the metaphor, the lamp is the Bhagavad Gita itself, the lamp which is filled with the oil would be then the stories or the verses of the Mahabharata, and then that oil lamp, it's funny to put it this way, an oil lamp casts no light whatsoever until you light it. It's just sitting there. It doesn't do anything until someone has to set the wick aflame. So here, Vyasa is the one who set fire to that wick, which is then drawing up the stories and verses of the Mahabharata and casting that beautiful light. Another part of this metaphor, and that is the light from one lamp can be used to light another lamp. And then the light from that second lamp can be used to light a third lamp. The light from a third lamp can be used to light a fourth lamp, and so forth. This is a metaphor we often use to describe the parampara, the lineage of teachers. So here, Vyasa set light to that wick in that vessel of Mahabharata, wisdom, knowledge. That lamp is shining brightly. But then Vyasa passes that light of wisdom along to his disciple, Vaishampayana. Remember, most of the Bhagavad Gita is actually a dialogue between Vaishampayana and King Janamejaya when he's doing this snake ritual, the Sarpa Yajna. The Sarpa Yajna goes on for days and days and days, and all the visiting dignitaries and guests are getting a little bored. So to keep them from being too bored, King Janamejaya requested Vaishampayana, the disciple, direct disciple of Vyasa, to recite the Mahabharata in that context. And then from that light of wisdom goes from Vyasa to Vaishampayana, and then it continues through generation after generation. At some point, it comes to a professional storyteller called Sutta or Sauti, who then narrates it. He was in this Naimisha Aranya, in this forest where all the rishis lived. I have to check myself. I mean, I use American English. I was going to say where all the rishis were hanging out. Sounds good in American English, anyway. So all the rishis were hanging out, and this Sauti then recited the Mahabharata that he had received from this tradition to all those assembled rishis, and then generation after generation after generation. At some point, that light of wisdom crossed the oceans and landed in this country. My guru, Puja Swami Tadatmananda, came here in 1976. I just share a funny story he used to tell. I think most of you know this wave metaphor, where the wave is non-separate from the ocean. In fact, he used to tell it like the wave is coming towards the shore, and the wave is afraid that it's going to be destroyed when it comes up on the rocks. And in the story, Swamiji used to say that there was another wave, a guru wave, an enlightened wave, and the enlightened wave tells the frightened wave, don't worry, because when you wash up on the shore, water remains water. You are, in essence, water, and as water, you will continue to exist unchanged even after you hit the beach. And as Puja Swamiji used to explain, that enlightened wave was a wave from the Indian Ocean. So that wave made it all the way across the seas, and now that light of wisdom is shining brightly, not just in North America, but in every continent. I'm not sure, Antarctica, I don't, South Pole, North Pole, I have no idea. Anyway, who knows, maybe. In fact, there are always scientific expeditions to those polar regions, and a great many scientists are of Indian origin and might be Hindu and might in fact be studying or teaching the Bhagavad Gita on the North Pole or South Pole. So every continent. Then, next verse. So first verse was in praise of Vyasa. First verse was in praise of Bhagavad Gita. Second in praise of Vyasa. Now in praise of Krishna. Prapanna parijataya, prapanna parijataya, totra vetraika panaye, Totra vetraika panaye jnana mudraya krishnaya Gitamrita duhe namaha Gritamrita duhe namaha Namaha, salutations, Krishnaya, salutations unto Krishna. And then Krishna is described very poetically here. First, he is described as Prapanna Parijataya. Parijata, many of you know, is often called the so-called wish-fulfilling tree. It's a tree that if you seek out this tree and perhaps sit at its base and maybe say some prayers, this tree fulfills your wishes. So here, Sri Krishna is called the one who is like a wish-fulfilling tree. A wish-fulfilling tree for whom? Prapanna. For those who seek the shade of that tree, so to speak, for those who seek the blessings of those trees. So prapanna, for those who seek Sri Krishna's blessings, Sri Krishna is a source of blessings. That's the idea. By the way, there's a backstory for that tree. You know, that Parijata tree is one of the many amazing things to emerge during the Samudra Matana, the churning of the so-called Milky Ocean. So this wish-fulfilling tree emerges in that story from Bhagavata Purana. And then Lord Indra seizes that tree. And Indra is king of the gods, so he should be the possessor of the wish-fulfilling tree, except someone was more powerful than Indra, who snatched the tree away from Indra. That, of course, was Sri Krishna. There's a long story that goes along with that. We'll leave it there. So Sri Krishna is mythologically the possessor of that Parijata tree, but here poetically, he is like a wish-fulfilling tree to those who have sought refuge. Sri Krishna is also described here as Totra Vetra Eka Panaye. Eka Pani. Pani is this pani, hand. Eka Pani, in one hand, he holds Totra Vetra. There are many different ways of interpreting that. Totra can be like the goad used by a cowherd. So when you want the cows to go from one pasture to another, you don't just say go. You have to you have to hit them with this goad. So Krishna is one who holds a goad. Vetra often means like cane. So it could mean a goad made of cane. Of course, that cane could also refer to his flute. Possible. You can interpret it in all these ways. Also, that goad could be, if there's a very common form of Lord Vishnu, whose right hand is an Abhaya Mudra and whose lower left hand rests down on a large goad, not a goad, a weapon. You've seen that club. It's like a club in his lower left hand. You've seen this pose. And he's got upper right and left arms with the chakra and the shankha, the discus and the conch. But the lower hands are Abhaya Mudra, and then down here, he's holding a large club. So all of that is implied. Sri Krishna, who holds the simple meaning, goad for the cows. Some people, they twist it a little bit, and they try to put it in the chariot. Sri Krishna might have a whip that he uses for the horses. Possible, but maybe not so. Anyway, whatever meaning you like to take. That's one of the distinctive features of poetry. Is there one, this is poetry, right? Is there one correct way of interpreting a poem? I think not. I think poets deliberately use suggestive language to allow you to bring to those poems many different meanings. So I think the nature of these words is suggestive of that you are meant to interpret these words as you like. So Sri Krishna, in one hand, apparently, we'll say in the left hand, he has a goad or the whip in the chariot or the weapon that the Lord Vishnu has, and in his right hand, this is a little unusual, in his right hand he has Jnana Mudra, like Sri Dakshinamurti has Jnana Mudra in his hand. And this is a very common gesture that indicates spiritual teachings. I have no idea why iconography, the drawings and pictures and that we see, lithographs of Sri Krishna, I don't think I've ever seen him with this Jnana Mudra. So somehow that never became popular in drawings, in pictorial depictions of Sri Krishna. But here we have in this verse, Jnana Mudraya, unto the one who in one hand he has a goad, in the other hand he has the gesture of teaching. When he's in the chariot, you'll see here. Can I point out the obvious? Do we exactly know what Sri Krishna looked like? Do we have any photographs? Okay, so whatever we see is the result of two factors. One factor is verses like this that describe the scene. So that is one factor that determines how these pictorial representations look. The second factor is the inclination of the artist. They can draw anything they want, and the drawing may or may not be true to the verses, but this is what they call that artistic license. So whenever you see a pictorial depiction of any Hindu deity, you should know that it's based on these two things. There are verses that give a physical description of that particular deity, but then there's always a tremendous amount of artistic license involved, which is why Goddess Lakshmi has flowing coins coming out of her hands. You can tell I don't like that very much anyway. And I don't like that because wealth is not money. You know that very well. Wealth is not money. Goddess of wealth, absolutely. Not goddess of money. Give me a break. Anyway, that's not our topic. And back to our American English. Okay, let's finish this off. The last part is very suggestive, very possessive. So, Namaha, salutations, and the last word for Sri Krishna is Gitamrita Duh. Duh is one who milks. So, Duhe, unto the one who milks the Amrita, the nectar of the Bhagavad Gita. So, the Bhagavad Gita is like the cow. Cow is full of milk, but you have to get the milk out of the cow. I don't think any of us have done this, but you get the idea. You know in principle, how do you get milk out of a cow? You milk the cow. So Sri Krishna is the one who milks the cow of the Gita, means the one who brings the spiritual wisdom out of the Bhagavad Gita. And that metaphor is expanded upon in the next verse. Let's see that next verse. Sarvo Panishado Gavo, Sarvo Panishado Gavo, Dogda Gopala Nandanaha, Dogda Gopala Nandanaha, Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta, Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta, Dugdham Gitamritam Mahata, Dugdham Gitamritam Mahata. Good. So here the metaphor is expanded upon. That last part. Sri Krishna is the one who milks the cow of the Bhagavad Gita. So now we get an expanded form of that metaphor. Gavaha, plural, cows. The cows are Sarva Upanishadaha, all the Upanishads. Gita is one, but in that Bhagavad Gita is the wisdom from many Upanishads. Upanishads, of course, are the teachings of the ancient rishis, which are found in the Vedas. So those spiritual teachings of the rishis found in the Vedas, we call them Upanishads. The wisdom of Sarva Upanishadaha, of all those Upanishads, is the wisdom that is found in the Bhagavad Gita. So the cows represent all the Upanishads, and then this milk, the milk of immortality, the nectar of immortality, is inside the cow. You have to get it out. So the dogdha, second part of this metaphor, the one who milks the cow is Gopala Nandana, the one who is either the one who is beloved to all the cowherds, or even better, the most beloved among all those cowherds. So Sri Krishna, as a boy, was a cowherd. His job was apparently not only to take those cows from field to field, but apparently he would milk them as well. Next part is very interesting. Parthaha vatsaha. Arjuna here in this extended metaphor is compared to a calf. And there's some significance there. Why? A cow only produces milk when she's had a calf. If she hasn't, by the way, I don't know anything about cows. Don't think I know all this stuff. But I presume, like human mothers produce milk after they have a baby, cows produce milk after they have a calf. If there's no calf, there's no milk, and an old technique that many cowherds use is when they're milking the cow, they bring the calf nearby so that the mother cow sees her calf and then apparently produces more milk. If that really works like that, I have no idea, but that's the idea of it. So Arjuna is the calf causing the cow to produce more milk, but that calf is standing there. The cowherd doesn't even let the calf drink the milk, right? He collects the milk and sells it. That's what they do. Of course, the calf has to be fed. We understand that. And we also understand that Arjuna definitely received these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, so it's not that he was deprived. But here, the metaphor is that Arjuna is a nimitta, an agent or cause that makes the cow produce more milk. For whom? For us. Sudhihi bhokta. The bhokta, the one who drinks the milk, is Sudhihi, the wise one who seeks out the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is very nice. Just as in the presence of the calf, the mother cow produces milk, and Sri Krishna milks that cow and gives that milk to others. In the same way, in the presence of Arjuna, that's what I mean by Arjuna being the nimitta. In the presence of Arjuna, Sri Krishna gave these teachings. Sri Krishna milked the cow of the Bhagavad Gita and gave these teachings to us all. So just as the calf is a nimitta, Arjuna is a nimitta, an agent, a causal factor. And finally, dugdham, that which is milked, the milk, is Gita Amritam, is the nectar of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Mahat. It's great, it's amazing, it's profound. So a nice extended metaphor, very poetic, and that's the idea. These dhyana shlokas in general tend to be very poetic. We have just one more verse, a very familiar verse that we chant at the end of each class. We'll chant it together. Vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanuramardanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadguru. We discussed this actually in a meditation session recently, where we discussed the reason for choosing this particular verse to recite at our altar is found in the last three words. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Vande, I worship Krishnam. Not Krishna the cowherd, even though we just saw that beautiful, beautiful metaphor. Here, we're worshiping not the cowherd, we're worshiping Jagadguru, the teacher of the world. Through the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is truly the teacher of the world. And in a manner of speaking, Sri Krishna continues to teach the world through the Bhagavad Gita. As long as the Bhagavad Gita is studied, Sri Krishna metaphorically continues to teach all the world. And the meaning of the rest of this verse, Vasudeva Sutam Devam. So I worship Sri Krishna, who is the Devam, the form of God, who is Sutam, the son of Vasudeva. Vasudeva was his earthly father. We'll call him that. There's a long, complicated story with Vasudeva and Devaki. I will spare you the story. Maybe on Krishna Janmashtami we can review that story. Here it's not needed. So Sri Krishna is worshipped here as the Devam, the God who was born in an earthly form, a human form, as the Sutam, as the son of Vasudeva. And also, see the second line, Devaki Paramanandam. Krishna, who is Paramananda, the one who brings great joy, Devaki, to his mother, Devaki. So mother and father of the earthly avatara, manifestation of Sri Krishna, are mentioned here. And also another mythological, no, I won't call it mythological, another reference to the childhood stories of Sri Krishna as the one who is Kamsa and Chanura Mardanam. Mardanam, the one who beat and killed, the one who beat and killed Kamsa. Boy, if there's ever an evil character in the scriptures, that one is. So, and I won't tell you the story. Many of you know. Krishna had 7 younger siblings, 6 of whom were killed by Kamsa. Not only that, Kamsa, and finally, of course, Sri Krishna defeats Kamsa and frees his parents from jail. You know that whole story. I won't go into it. Not only Kamsa, but Kamsa then, at one point, before Sri Krishna finishes off, as it were, Kamsa sent his royal wrestler, whose name was Chanura, big fellow. So you can just imagine the scene. Here's little Krishna, he was probably 10 years old at the time, and here is this mighty wrestler called Chanura. Guess who won the wrestling match? Very unlikely, but that's how the story goes. But to me, the most important part of, how are we doing on time? Yeah. The most important part of this verse is Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. You're free to worship Krishna in any way you want. You can worship him as a child in Vrindavan. You can worship him with the gopis. You can worship him in Mathura, fighting Kamsa and Chanura. You can worship him in a chariot with Arjuna in any context that's meaningful to you. But I think in terms of our study of the Bhagavad Gita, what is most meaningful here is Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. I worship Sri Krishna as the teacher of the world. Okay, we will continue and I think finish the Gita Dhyana verses in our next class. A quick announcement, we have satsang 6 p.m. on Sunday. The weather, I think, will be quite nice. It's delightful to sit out in the garden and have satsang, so please join us tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We'll conclude with our brief prayers at the altar. And you need to push that button. You need to push the button. You need to push.
Part 4, right?
Yeah. I don't know why. Something went wrong.
Oh, it's panning. It's panning.
There it goes. I think that when you press, don't hold.
Okay.
Just a good, solid press. I think that's what went wrong there. And we're still learning this new system. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Gaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatahana Shranvan Uttabasida Saranam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.